If you work in quality control at a candy factory, you know strict safety regulations come with the job. It's why you partner with Grainger. Grainger helps you find the high-quality and compliant products your business needs to inspect, detect, and help correct issues. And the sweetest part is, everyone gets a product that's as safe to eat as it is delicious. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
Hey, warm and fuzzy hello. Welcome to lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the Visa Family Podcast. We've got an excellent podcast for you, as we're going to be joined in segment number 2 by one of our good friends, Rob Donaldson, who does great work with the show/podcast, Rob's Best Bets. We're going to be chatting with them about what we've all seen here in the first 6+ weeks of the MLB season, some of the player props that he's been taking a liking to, and we'll dive in on the games for Tuesday in the final segment. Going to get you guys picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Tuesday, as we do touch them all. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you, for this podcast, you have one of two ways we offer those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, letters M. Naming does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. And the other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. While I didn't get in any Twitter/X questions today, everything it is brought to you by Edge Boost. Over at Edge Boost, they do a tremendous job of making sure that bettors are able to access their funds 24/7, 365 in leap years 366 days of the year, as there's no holds barred or anything like that with regards to these transactions. You can use it whenever you want. You earn cashback rewards, and when you go to edgeboost.bet, utilize that promo code of Greg, G-R-E-G. That gets you a dollar for dollar match up to $25 on your first deposit. Now let's take a look back at everything that we saw in baseball on Monday. Try to find some trends and try to get to know these teams a little bit better.
Games from yesterday is Greg buzzing about. Here is the rowdy recap.
The Rockies lost their 34th game of the year, but just their 4th one-run loss of the season. 2-1, they fell to the Texas Rangers, who, the Texas Rangers, boy oh boy, have they been a cash cow to the under thus far this season, as they currently lead all baseball with just 13 overs, 28 unders, and a push, and they did not get a lot going off of Chase Dollander, who he gave up 2 runs over the course of 6 innings, allowed one hit. That one hit just so happened to fly over the fence, as Wyatt Langford gets his 7th home run of the campaign, and Tyler Mahle continues to be rock solid for Texas. 1 run allowed in 6 1/3 innings. From there, Robert Garcia, pair of outside the bullpen, scoreless. You had Chris Martin give you a scoreless inning. Luke Jackson, he threw 1 pitch, and he had to depart from this game. And then Jacob Webb, a scoreless inning to be able to get the save. Meanwhile, for Colorado, Jake Bird and Tyler Kinley were both able to end a scoreless inning. And the Rockies, 17 overs, 23 unders, and a push. They've also been one of your better under teams. The second best team to the under in all of baseball is the Kansas City Royals, but they got overwhelming on Monday as 7-5. They take down the Houston Astros with having Michael Massey going deep off of Ryan Gusto, his 2nd home run of the season. And Gusto did not pitch with much gusto in this one. 7 runs allowed, and he got 7 outs. From there, the bullpen was actually good. Bennett Sosa, Steven Okert both give you 2 scoreless innings apiece. Caleb Ward a scoreless inning. And then you had Taylor Scott give you 5 outs out of the bullpen scoreless. And for the Kansas City Royals, Michael Wacha does get the job done, allowing 2 runs in 6 1/3 innings for the win. John Schreiber gives you a pair of outs out of the bullpen scoreless. Steven Cruz did allow 3 runs, 2 of which were earned in a third of an inning to make things interesting. But Luke Searcich, pair of outs out of the bullpen in the 8th inning. And then Carlos Estevez, scoreless inning to be able to get the job done and lock it down for the Atlanta Braves. If you like me out of the run line, this was pretty awful to say the least. They were up by 2 runs in the 9th inning. There was an error that allowed the Washington Nationals to score a pair in the 9th inning. And then for the Atlanta Braves, they managed to be able to walk it off with an Alex Verdugo single. 4-3 the final as Jake Irvin gives up 3 runs over the course of 6 innings, including a home run to Marcell Ozuna, home run number 6 of the campaign. From there, Jose Ferrer, Oriel Lopez combined for a scoreless inning. Jackson Rutledge, 1 1/3 innings. He allowed the winning run as Andrew Chafin inherited runners when Verdugo hit that RBI single. And James Wood, he was able to go deep off of Grant Holmes' 11th home run season, but for Holmes, a relatively solid start. 1 run allowed in 6 1/3 innings. Dylan Lee, pair of outside the bullpen scoreless. Desbel Hernandez, a scoreless inning, and then Rossio Iglesias, 2 runs, 1 of which was earned off a Nick Allen error in the 9th inning, but does manage to win. And The worst performance of the night, that belongs to the Boston Red Sox. 14-2, the Red Sox get pulverized by the Detroit Tigers, who had 27-15. Had the best record out there in the American League, and Tanner Houck, for the second time in his last 6 starts, gave up at least 11 runs. He got 7 outs, he gave up 11 runs, all of which were earned, including a pair of home runs. Trey Sweeney, 4th home run season. Gleyber Torres, his 5th home run of the campaign. And then from there, Sean Newcomb, 5 2/3 innings of long relief, gives up 3 runs, 2 of which were earned for the Boston Red Sox. Pair of home runs. Weiler Abreu off of Jackson Jobe, 11th home run of the season. Then John Brebbia gives one up to Abraham Toro, 1st home run of the season for Mr. Jobe. He gives up 1 run in 5 2/3 innings to be able to get a W. Sean Gunther from there, 2 scoreless innings, and then John Brebbia gives up that home run in his 1 1/3 innings of work. The St. Louis Cardinals have all of a sudden won 9 straight games. 3-2, they take it to the Philadelphia Phillies as one Christopher Sanchez. Not a bad start here. 2 runs allowed over the course of 6 innings. Did allow a home run along the way, though, as going deep off of him, Ivan Herrera, welcome back off the injury list, 5th home run season. Then Mason Wynn off of Matt Strahm, home run number 4 of the campaign. Strahm gives up that home run in his inning work. Orion Kirkering, Tanner Banks, they both ended scoreless inning. And for St. Louis, you did have Matthew Liberatore give up 2 runs in 5 1/3 innings, but bullpen has back. Kyle Leahy, 7 outs out of the bullpen scoreless. Jojo Romero, and out of the bullpen, and Ryan Housley is able to give you a scoreless inning as well. Plenty of scoreless innings provided by the Chicago Cubs, 5-2. They're able to take it to the Miami Marlins, as for the Fish, Cal Quantrill, another rough start out of him. 3 runs allowed in 4 1/3 innings, including a home run as he was taken deep by Dancy Swanson. 9th home run season. Then Anthony Veziano gives one up to C.A. Suzuki. Oh, I see you getting your 10th home run season. Veziano, 2 runs allowed in 2/3 of an inning. You did have 3 scoreless innings out of Kate Gibson to help things out, and you did have Derek Hill go deep off of Colin Ray to say hip hooray to his 2nd home run season. But for Ray, another relatively solid start. 2 runs allowed in 6 2/3 innings. Yeah, from there, Danny Palencia give you 4 outs out of the bullpen scoreless, and Drew Pomeranz, he's able to score a scoreless inning, as for the Cubs, one of your better over teams in all of baseball. 24 overs, 15 unders, and 3 pushes, and Miami's actually just a little bit better at 25 overs and 15 unders. Your best over team in all of baseball, though, that'd be the Seattle Mariners. With what happened on Monday, they're now up to 25 overs, 13 unders, and 2 pushes. I have to do this to be up by midnight Pacific time. Currently doing this in the bottom of the 8th, but the Yankees should be able to get the job done. Currently up by a count of 8-3 here, as Clark Schmidt did allow a pair of home runs, 3 runs in total over the course of 6 innings, as going deep for Seattle, Jorge Polanco, 10th home run season, and Julio Rodriguez, his 7th, but Emerson Hancock, he did not have it here. He does fill 5 innings, but gives up 7 runs, all of which were earned, including a trio of bombs, as Trent Grisham now has home runs 11 and 12 of the campaign. This guy was miserable for years, and he has been able to bust out. And then Austin Wells hits at Wells for his 8th home run of the season for the Yankees. You have Michael Leiter Jr. give you a scoreless inning. Tim Mills currently on to hold down the fort, and Edward Bizzardo for the Seattle Mariners, 1 run allowed over the course of 2 innings, and Casey Lugumina, he was able to give you a scoreless inning as well. For the San Francisco Giants, just nothing doing against the Arizona Diamondbacks. 2-1 the final, as Justin Verlander has been a tough luck loser this season. 2 runs allowed in 6 innings. Now, both of those runs were via solo home runs off the bat of Corbin Carroll, 12th and 13th home runs of the season. But Merrill Kelly gives up 8 hits in 7 innings, but only 1 run. From there, Jalen Beeks, Shelby Miller, they both ended scoreless inning. And for the San Francisco Giants, you did have Eric Miller, Taylor Rogers, along with Randy Rodriguez, all ended scoreless inning, but a little bit of a rough one out there for them. And this was a rough one for the Pittsburgh Pirates, as they fall to the New York Metropolitans 4-3 the final, as Paul Skeens gives once again a really good start. 1 run allowed over the course of 6 innings, and then the bullpen blew it. Caleb Ferguson, 2 runs allowed in 2/3 of an inning. Colin Olderman, 4 outs out of the bullpen scoreless, and David Benar gives up an unearned run in the 9th inning, as Desir Canara-Falefa had a error out there in the field that really costed them in that 9th inning. He did also have a home run in this game off of David Peterson. Great name, first home run of the season for Peterson. Lost just 2 runs over the course of 6 innings. From there, Oscar Barzobin does give up an unearned run in the 9th inning, but he, Daniel Nunez, Osebuto, they did not give up any earned runs along the way. And for the Milwaukee Brewers, they did not get any runs in general. Cleveland Guardians get a 5-0 win over them, and for the Crew, Freddie Peralta did not have it. 4 runs allowed in 5 1/3 innings. Brian Hudson from there, 5 outs out of the bullpen scoreless. Elvis Piguero, a scoreless inning, and for the Brewers, they strand 11 men on base. As for Cleveland, Ben Lively, he was not very lively in this one because he had to leave after 3 innings, but you did have 3 scoreless innings from Kobe Albert, and then Jacob Junis, Cade Smith, Hunter Gaddis, all able to score scoreless innings for the Cleveland Guardians. And then the night wrapped up with a stunner stunner by the Angels. They were able to put up a 6 spot in the 9th inning. They take it to the San Diego Padres after being down 5-3 going into that 9th inning. For the Angels, they do find a way to be able to persevere against Robert Suarez. They get the job done, this by a count of 9-5, as for the LA Angels, Taylor Ward was able to provide a grand slam in the 9th inning. That is home run number 9 of the campaign for him. That comes off of Alec Jacob, who actually relieved Mr. Robert Suarez and Dak Neto a little bit earlier in the game off of Michael King, 5th home run of the season. For King, pretty solid. 3 runs, 2 of which were earned, given up in 5 2/3 innings. From there, Jeremiah Estrada, Jason Adam, turn a scoreless inning. Adrian Morejon, he gets an out of the bullpen, and then Robert Suarez charged with 5 runs allowed in a third of an inning. He pretty much loaded up the bases. Alec Jacob then gives up that home run to Taylor Ward. And for the San Diego Padres, you did have Fernando Tatis Jr. go deep off of Yusei Kikuchi. And for Yusei Kikuchi, I say he gave up 4 runs in 6 innings, 2 of which were earned. And then from there, you had Kenley Jansen, Brock and Rollberg, Jose Fermin. All lend a scoreless inning. If you're looking trend-wise at what we're getting in Major League Baseball right now, it has been a little bit of an underwhelming season thus far, and we've been seeing the unders come through in the last 7 days. 48 unders, 41 overs, so a little bit over 53% hit rate to the under. Favorites, they're hitting at a little bit under 58.5%, 54 and 38 on the money line in this band. If you're looking at the season to date, favorites are hitting at darn near 60%, 367 and 245 on the money line. Meanwhile, we've seen 306 unders to 282 overs, so about a 52% hit rate to the under. That's what we're seeing in Major League Baseball right now, and that's what we're all getting trend-wise. Now let's take a look at everything that we are seeing in this great game for Tuesday with Rob Donaldson, how he's playing his props, and how he's taking a look at the betting board to be able to find some profits, and then we'll dive in on these games for Tuesday next with him right here on the Baseball Betting Show. Myself, Greg Peterson, now a part of the Peterson Family Podcast.
If you work in quality control at a candy factory, you know strict safety regulations come with the job. It's why you partner with Grainger. Grainger helps you find the high-quality and compliant products your business needs to inspect, detect, and help correct issues. And the sweetest part is, everyone gets a product that's as safe to eat as it is delicious. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
Hello back here, lovely Las Vegas, for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the Peterson Family Podcast, and it's always a pleasure to be joined by this band as we've got Rob Donaldson aboard. He does a great job with the show/podcast of Rob's Best Bets. Taking a look at this great game of baseball that we all know and love. He also does a great job on the college basketball front when that's in season as well. I know he's doing a wide variety of different things from player props, sides, totals, you name it. He does it, and you're able to follow him on Twitter/X at RobDFB altogether. And Rob, it's great to get you aboard. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having me on, Greg. And, we've already had a pretty exciting season so far, and the way that particularly the AL is playing out, my goodness, we could have a really historically fun kind of backstretch in summer time of the year with Major League Baseball here as well.
Oh, absolutely. And just what have you identified thus far in the baseball season? Because just the biggest takeaway for me thus far continues to be the big giant fades that we've got in baseball, because we've got some good teams, we've got some bad teams, we've got some indifferents, what have you. But man, oh man, there have been some rough teams out there thus far this season.
Yeah, and to be honest, 2 weeks ago, if you were asking me that same question, one of those rough teams would have been the Minnesota Twins, right? And all of a sudden, they've ripped off 8 straight wins. Who knows what's going to happen here on Monday? And I think that just kind of speaks to a broader point of, although it's easy to kind of react to this 40-game sample size that we've already seen, multiply that 4 times over, and that will get you kind of through the regular season to kind of put into perspective, how much of a drop of the bucket, the early results actually are. And we've seen this with several teams already, whether it's the Braves kind of working their way back in the fold or the Minnesota Twins. And, even as of late, the Toronto Blue Jays are playing better baseball. I think that the overreactions can sometimes consume the narrative, and for that reason, it adds a lot of betting value for us over here.
Oh, it certainly does. And out of all those teams, which one would you say has the most positivity? Because with the Minnesota Twins, I think that it is massive that this team is currently going against an Orioles team that it's just not been great with their pitching staff. And I look at Simeon Woods Richardson on Tuesday being an underdog against Cade Povich, and I believe that Woods Richardson is by far the better pitcher out of those two.
It's not even remotely close, and the only reason the Orioles would even kind of be in the discussion is because they can hit righties. And at the same time, Cade Povich on the other side has been getting tagged up by every single lineup he faces. he's one of those guys that I only think is in Major League Baseball right now because of the necessity. I mean, he would be a AAA guy, a perfect build-up type of pitcher for an organization that actually had starting pitching. But to your point, when you're trotting out, Kyle Gibson and a whole cast of characters because of injuries and just honestly underperformance, it leads itself to, forcing these guys into starts that maybe they shouldn't be making. And for that reason, I do like the Twins. I also like just kind of a general over is kind of how I see that game playing out.
Yeah, with the Minnesota Twins, it's been a lineup that has been much better with Royce Lewis and Byron Buxton in the full, which you don't find those two guys healthy at the same time very often. So that very much helps them out, and I think that that's going to be big to take a look at moving forward, as we do have Rob Donaldson of the Rob's Best Bet Show join me on the Baseball Betting Show, and I'm so glad that you're mentioning that sometimes, the narrative goes a little bit too far on some of these fades. We get lost in the moment too much. But what do we make of the Colorado Rockies? Because 7-33 going into Monday, coming off of a win where they were 6-33 before, less than savory. And I understand that the narrative goes a little bit too far, but this is a skid mark on the underpants of baseball.
Yeah, some narratives just hit it right on the head.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's an adjective you can use to describe the Colorado Rockies that wouldn't be apt. Especially when I'm just kind of looking at, the standings and going down the list, and they have a negative 128 run differential. This isn't just they're at the bottom of the NL or bottom of Major League Baseball. They are at the bottom of Major League Baseball by a significant degree, and that just makes them almost like an impossible bet game by game.
Yeah, even though you're going to be getting north of plus $2 on this team time and time again, you just can't do it. And I know that there's a lot of people that have trepidation in terms of laying the run line with the home team, but I'm going to be willing to do it here moving forward against the Colorado Rockies, who in their 33 losses going into Monday, 30 had been by multiple runs. And I'm not sure if you're finding other ways to be able to fade the Rockies, but it feels like there are very, very a lot of them right now, especially with them on the road averaging 2.2 runs per game entering into Monday away from home.
Yeah, and I think how you can kind of view it is ultimately the other team is likely to score about 5 to 8 runs on just any given day. And if you do feel like the Rockies maybe can squeeze across that 2 or 3 to hold up their end of the bargain in maybe a totals environment, maybe don't lay the minus 2.5 or the 2 runs and just take a full game over or first 5 over, because their starting pitching is awful. Their bullpen is awful. So even if through the first 5 innings, it's kind of at a 3-0 standstill, I do feel like the Rockets are going to add maybe a few more runs on the back end of that game just inherently.
Yeah, it's just been rough for this team, to say the least. And you say, all we need is 2 or 3 runs with the Rockies. Them on the road averaging 2.2 runs per game. Man, it's really bad. That might be just a team total under on the Rockies as well, because it is rocky for them, to say the least. As our good friend Rob Donaldson, he does such tremendous work taking a look at baseball, is joining me on the Baseball Betting Show, and I think this one is very intriguing. How about a pair of teams that they've been rough with their offense as well, the Astros and the Kansas City Royals? And both of these pitchers, in my opinion, are coming in good form, as you've got a lefty matchup of Chris with the K. Bubich against Framber Valdez and the Astros right around about minus 140 or so favorites, and then total of 7.5. How do you view this one with a guy in Bubich who's been a really nice upstart and a guy in Valdez who's a steady Eddie guy but has been a little bit hit or miss this season?
And I think your latter point about Framber Valdez, it rings really true, because I do feel like where he's kind of currently sitting, maybe a little bit south of that 4 ERA mark, is where he's going to be this season. And that's mainly because he's getting hit really hard. And although the strikeouts have kind of been all over the place with him, I don't think that's going to really truly straighten out to where we saw him, chasing Cy Youngs just a few years ago. And with the Royals on the other side, they've been hit with a lot of bad weather games in the early going. Also, when you're playing at the K, sometimes that ball is going to get dead no matter how hard you hit it, whether it's in left field or dead center. And when you are playing on the road in a hitter's-friendly ballpark like the Astros ballpark, I do feel like the Royals could add a little bit of run support there. So I'm fully willing to go ahead and jump on that Royals money line and even potentially kind of ladder up that run line there too.
Yeah, when it comes to the Kansas City Royals, it's been very intriguing to look at them and the way that their bullpen has been much better this season as well. And what also has been very surprising, the Seattle Mariners are scoring runs this season. Someone call the papers, because that's been a little bit tough for them, especially in that shall we say, pitcher-friendly environment. And now it's going to be Brian Wu against Max Fried. And the Yankees right around about a minus 135 to a minus 140 or so favorite, total of 7. How do you look at this one with a guy in Fried who, if I had to give a vote for AL Cy Young Award right now, I would honestly give it to Max Fried.
Without question, he has been absolutely stellar. And even when he has, the quote unquote, maybe bad game, or he doesn't leave the game with the team having the lead, the Yankees having the lead, he gave them a very competitive 6 or 7 innings, regardless of which start you're pointing to. And I do feel like there's going to be a little bit of negative regression, and that's just natural when you're sporting a 1 ERA nearly on the dot right there. But at the same time, to your point, the thing that's kind of weird in this scenario is the Seattle Mariners are hitting the ball extremely well. I think a lot of that can go to Polanco out of that 2 spot, just kind of coming out of nowhere. And Julio Rodriguez, even with his slow start, has started to really turn it up. And that's kind of been his MO over the last 3 seasons here. And I do think that Brian Wu on the other side is another guy who I think is actually going to experience a lot of positive regression. Even with a good start, I really love his stuff and I really want to back him. And so I'm kind of looking at that game through 2 different lenses. Through the first 5 innings, I do like that under, and I wouldn't even be surprised if the Mariners actually do end up winning this game on the backs of that good start and a good bullpen performance.
I love that you mentioned that as well. Are there any player props that you're really looking at for the next few days in general, / which ones have really been hitting for you? Because it's hard to obviously do player props on this podcast because as we're doing this, they're currently not up. But that said, I know you've been doing a great job of being able to extract a little bit of value on that front as well.
Yeah, player props right now are probably my best market that I've been targeting. And a large part of that is going to be the total bases over 1.5 or the hits plus runs plus RBIs over 1.5. And it really is, a kind of a simplistic formula for me. What I look at is the pitcher that they're going up against giving up hard contact. Has he been giving up the long balls or the extra base hits? And then you look at the lineup that you're wanting to actually do well. For example, maybe the Minnesota Twins would have piqued my radar today. And ultimately, you just kind of find the guys over the last 3 or 4 games that are really tagging baseball as well. And right now, with the weather that we've been kind of having at the late part of March into early May, there's a lot of guys that you can find in any lineup that are hitting the baseball hard. And so I would say, look at those Braves. Look at those, if I'm kind of going down the list here, look at those Rockies even that might be having a lot of hard contact, because Jack Leiter, Mike Soroka, those would be 2 names that I'm very eager to target, and especially with the Rockies, with a team that doesn't score runs. You might be able to find a little bit of deep value in that lineup there.
And I'm so glad that you mentioned the Braves because they're currently minus 225 favorites against the Nationals and Mike Soroka, and that total is 8.5. How would you be looking at that game? Because I do think that it's very intriguing that Mike Soroka is going up against his old team, and Spencer Schwellenbach is one of those guys I think is doing for a bit of positivity as well.
Schwellenbach at the start of the year really came out firing. He was pitching extremely well, and it was almost unsustainable. And then, that unsustainableness, caught up to him, and now he's kind of sitting where I think he probably should be sitting. But at the same time, to your point, Mike Soroka is going up in this game against Schwellenbach, and I do feel like the Nationals can hold up their own in terms of hitting hard right-handers. And I look at their lineup, I think they're probably going to be good for 2 or 3 runs in this game, and I think the Braves on the other side could score in the range of 5 to 6, and that 100% puts it in over territory for me. And for that reason, especially with that Nationals bullpen on the back end of the game, whether Mike Soroka shoves or not, I am going to be taking a look at that over in that matchup there.
I think that's a tremendous look from you. And anything else that's really piquing your fancy with regards to this Tuesday, as we've got all 30 teams in action and no day games?
Yeah, it's outrageous that we don't have day games tomorrow.
Second straight day, come on!
Yeah, even the Cubs who are playing at Wrigley, who usually don't play night games, are playing a night game tomorrow against the Marlins of all teams. But, now that we're talking about that game, I will say there are some good bats in this Marlins lineup that are starting to wake up. They're young, they're hitting the ball hard, and Ben Brown is one of those guys that I do like to target in that hits plus runs plus RBIs market. I look at a guy like a Kyle Stowers, for example, that really jumps off the page, and Eric Wagaman. And for that reason, I don't think that the Marlins should be this massive of an underdog. I say you take that plus 1.5 on the run line and even sprinkle a little bit on the full game money line. And I think you might be surprised with a plus 200 hit right there.
The fish are going to be looking to fry up the Cubs. I absolutely love it. And we've always got ourselves a great time when you're aboard, Rob, as you do such a tremendous job taking a look at this great game of baseball. Let the good people at home know it's all on tap for you and how people can follow along on social media and other platforms.
Well, hey, Greg, I always appreciate having you on, man. And for those who are wanting to follow my bets throughout the week, you can do so on my YouTube channel, which is just my name, Rob Donaldson. And on the weekends, you can find my picks on my Twitter/X page at RobDFB. But as always, Greg, I really appreciate having me on, man.
It is always great to be able to get Rob aboard. He does such a great job deciphering this great game of baseball, and every single time he joins me, lends such great insight. So a big thanks to Rob for joining me on the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. And coming up next, it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Tuesday as we touch them all.
If you work in quality control at a candy factory, you know strict safety regulations come with the job. It's why you partner with Grainger. Grainger helps you find the high-quality and compliant products your business needs to inspect, detect, and help correct issues. And the sweetest part is, everyone gets a product that's as safe to eat as it is delicious. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Always a pleasure to be joined by Rob Donaldson, who does great work with the show/podcast Rob's Best Bets. Every single time he joins me, lends such amazing insights. Did so once again today, so a big thanks to Rob for joining me in the last segment. Now it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Tuesday as we touch them all.
If a game is listed on the betting board, Greg has a side and a total on it, so it is time to touch them all.
Do note that as per usual, any changes that are made to these plays will be listed up on my Twitter/X feed at @GUnit_81, and we're going to be going in Las Vegas rotation order. This is where we go with the National League games first, then the American League games, any interleague games. Those are going to be at the bottom. That'll keep things all nice, neat, clean, and easy. So how about if we do start things off with 9:51, 9:52 on the card. The St. Louis Cardinals hit the road. They're facing off against the Philadelphia Phillies as Jesus Luzardo is on the bump for the Phils, and Sonny Gray goes for St. Louis. St. Louis does find themselves anywhere between plus 130 to plus 131 underdogs, minus 145 to minus 155. That number on Philadelphia 8 is the total. The under is minus 125. The over is plus 105. Right now with the Philadelphia Phillies, I did set them on the money line at a minus 144, and if you're looking at the run line, you should be able to spot this when you get it a little bit more available, right in that neighborhood about a plus 140 or so. I was seeing out there a plus 145, and if we can get a plus 142 or higher on that run line, I'll be looking there with the Philadelphia Phillies. As for Sonny Gray, he has been a different pitcher when he's been away from home rather than at home with the St. Louis Cardinals, with his ERA rising by a full point and a half. And for Sonny Gray, I still think that he's a relatively solid pitcher. He's not necessarily the Mona Lisa Vito pitching at this point, but you know what? He's posting up a 3.50 ERA. It's a man that has gone out there and he's given you 9.1 strikeouts, 2.1 walks per 9 innings, and it is a Cardinals lineup that is solid. They're 13th in the big leagues in terms of road runs per game, as Brandon Donovan had well above 300. It's been a team that's been playing a lot of station-to-station baseball, so I think that it's very big that they are getting back the full Devon Herrera, who had either 4 or 5 home runs towards the beginning part of the season, but then was hurt for about a month, so that's going to be an X factor for them, and also an X factor for this team is perhaps getting a little bit more of Nolan Arenado moving forward, because he's been able to do a solid job reaching base, giving you north of a 330 on base, but he's only been able to supply 4 home runs this far this season. Now, Wilson Contreras, after a rough start to the season, he's back up to a north of 330 on base. He's been able to give you 6+ home runs as well, and then Lars Nootbaar doing a nice job, give you 6 bombs and reaching base as well. That's been rock solid. And for the Philadelphia Phillies, it has been a little bit up and down with regards to the bottom of the lineup, but now Alec Boehm, after a rough start to the season, is picking it up. And for the Phillies, I do believe that there is going to be some positivity coming from the home run power of this team, because you have only 2 guys in the starting lineup on Monday with north of 4 home runs. Bryce Harper, 7 home runs, I think for just a 237, but the on-base has been solid. And then Kyle Schwarber has been amazing, 14 home runs, about a 400 on base. He's been incredible. And Trey Turner, he hits for 300, but it's not giving you a lot of power. You've been seeing Armando Sosa at the bottom of the fold be able to give you some relatively good at-bats, and do have to have trepidations with both of these bullpens outside the top 15 with regards to ERA. And for the Phillies, Jose Alvarado, Matt Strahm, these guys have been very reliable, sub 3.5 ERA. And then from there, Orion Kerkering has had his issues this year. Tanner Banks, these guys have all been just not great, to say the least. And for the St. Louis Cardinals, Ryan Helsley, I do believe, is one of the better closers that you're going to find in all baseball. Phil Matone has been relatively solid as well. Kyle Leahy give you good innings, but when you do get into Jojo Romero, that's been an issue. John King and Ryan Fernandez, guys like this, have been a little bit brutal. So I do think that the Phillies are going to be able to get in that bullpen. I think that they're going to be rock solid there. And Jesus Luzardo, this guy's giving 9.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, really doing a good job of keeping the ball in the yard. I think that he's only given up 2 home runs this far this season. His home runs per 9 rate, that is currently sitting at a 0.4, if I'm not mistaken. So I do think that for Luzardo, going to do a nice job of being able to get the job done here. If I'm able to get a plus 142 or higher, looking at the run line and on the under semi-total at a 7.8, 953, 954 on the betting board. The Pittsburgh Pirates, they're facing off against the New York Mets as Kodai Senga is on the bump for the Mets. Mitch Keller goes for the Buccos. 7.5 is the total. Over and under, both at minus 110. And for the Mets, they're any between minus 230 to minus 250 favorites. You're going to be getting right around about plus $2 to plus 210 on that number on the Pittsburgh Pirates. And with regards to money line of the New York Mets, I did set them at a minus 231. But if you're looking to lay a run half, I'd be willing to go up to a minus 122 here. Right now, I'm seeing that initial run line at FanDuel at a minus 111. I'd be willing to lay that in. For Kodai Senga, I do believe that there's going to be a little bit of negative regression coming in for him, as this is a man that currently has a 1.14 ERA, but 301 fielding dependent, 8 strikeouts to 4 walks per 9 innings. But you do have a Pittsburgh Pirates team that's averaging 3.1 runs per game entering into Monday, dead last in the big leagues. And I mean, with the Pittsburgh Pirates, the pitching has been the world's worst for them. Mitch Keller has a 4.40 ERA, but that's more like a 3.69 fielding dependent. The swing and miss stuff has been down, but he's allowed just 3 home runs in 45 innings as far this season. So I'm not going to sit here and call him great, but he's been by no means terrible. But I mean, with the Pittsburgh Pirates, who in the heck is going to be able to move the line and find a way on base for this team? You've had Isaiah Kiner-Falefa do an okay job of being able to provide that, and Oneil Cruz has been solid. Oneil Cruz give you about a 369 on base, 8 home runs this far this season, but I mean, past those 2 guys, you just have not been able to get much of anything whatsoever, as it's been hot and cold with that regard. With Falefa now on the injury list, that means that you need something out of Tommy Pham, and Tommy Pham sitting below the middle line of 200, and then you've got just a mismatch of guys, and they've used a lot of them at the bottom lineup this year. I'm talking Alexander Canario, Jared Trollo, Henry Davis, Jack Swiniski, just so many guys hitting below a 200 that they're just giving you a big giant nothing burger. And for the New York Mets, this has been an offense that has been ascending recently, mostly with Juan Soto being a bit, I believe now 4 home runs in the last 11 days. So it's been absolutely massive. Francisco Lindor was a little bit slow getting out of the gates, but now he's hot, hitting 309 plus home runs this season. Pete Alonso, 9 plus home runs. He's been able to give you north of 400 on base. Luan Acuna is not really giving you a whole lot of power, but he's doing a nice job moving the line for this team as well. And then Mark Vientos, after a rough start to the season, he's starting to pick it up as well. And this has been a Mets bullpen that has been really good with their long guys. I'm not necessarily feeling it with the likes of Ryan Stanek, Reed Garrett, but that said, when you've got the likes of a Jose Buto, Uskar Brzobin, Max Chronic, we're all able to give you multiple innings. All these guys are able to give you a sub 3.30 ERA. I do think that they're going to do a nice job locking it down in the spot, and I do think that for the New York Mets, they're going to take it to the Pittsburgh Pirates. Did somebody told 7.9. Do think that Senga experiences a little bit of regression, but I also do think that the Mets get to the Pirates and this bullpen that has been shaky to say the least. They've been on with a right around about 5 ERA this far this season. Colin Holderman, well, he's not been living up to that name. I actually do like Joey Wentz in this bullpen, but he's had some, shall we say, suspect results this far this season as well. And then when you get into Justin Lawrence, he's actually been really good for the team. So we're going to give a little bit of credit where it is due, but likes of Chase Shogert and company, not feeling them. So I do like the run line here of the New York Mets, and I'm going to be in on the over, so I told 7.9. 955, 956 on the betting board. It is the Washington Nationals on the road against the Atlanta Braves as Spencer Schwellenbach is on the bump for the Bravos and Mike Soroka faces his old team in the Atlanta Braves. Right now, the Atlanta Braves are minus 225 to minus 215 favorites between plus 185 to plus 195. That number on Washington, and 8.5 is the total. The under is minus 125 and the over is plus 105. Right now, the lone place I'm seeing a run line price is at FanDuel, and that is a minus 110 on the Atlanta Braves, and I'd be willing to lay that. I'm willing to go up to a minus 125. In terms of this Braves run line for Spencer Schwellenbach, recognize that the last few starts have been very much less than savory from. He's given up 3+ runs in 3 out of his last 4 starts, but the swing and miss stuff, it's not amazing, but it's been relatively okay from. He's been getting in that neighborhood of about like 8.5 strikeouts per 9 innings this far this season, and he does a nice job being able to keep the ball in the yard. 5 home runs allowed across his 8 starts, 47 plus innings, and his last start against the Cincinnati Reds was pretty rock solid to be able to get him back online. And on the flip side, you do have a Washington Nationals team that just has been very suspect in terms of their offense. I like what Nathaniel Lowe's provided, hitting north of 250, 5+ home runs out of him, and then James Wood, 10 home runs, north of a 360 on base. That has been very good for this team, but for the Washington Nationals, overall, this has been a lesser offense out there in all of baseball, 18th in terms of runs per game. You have quite a few guys that are just not living up to their billing, even though Keibert Ruiz, he's been one of those guys that has been able to supply. He's giving you right around about a 290, 295 average, so he's doing a solid job moving the line, but Dylan Cruz sitting below the middle side of 200, that's not necessarily been panning out for them. They've been mixing and matching with the likes of a Jacob Young in there, who has not really been able to give you a whole heck of a lot. Jose Tena has given you a few at-bats, but not really hitting for power and a 280 on base, and the big issue that you've got with Washington Nationals. How about this bullpen with an ERA north of 7? That is dead last in all of baseball. You've got 2 guys right now in this bullpen that have seen at least 5 innings this far this season. They're posting up an ERA that is below a 365. Jackson Rutledge along Kyle Finnegan. You've got so many guys like Jorge Lopez, Eduardo Salazar, Jose Ferrer, Colin Pouchet that have all been awful. Lucas Sims. And he's made 18 appearances and he's got a north of 13 ERA. Good grief. At some point, you just have to really be questioning what's happening there. And then for the Atlanta Braves, this bullpen, it's not amazing. It's not bad. It's right around league average. They let go of A.J. Minter in the offseason, but they've been able to have Desbel Hernandez do a nice job stepping up. He and Dylan Lee have done a nice job being able to supply the team with a sub-350 ERA. Additionally, you've been able to get some relatively good production out of the closer in Rossio Iglesias. I recognize it's been a little bit up and down for him thus far this season, but I do think that he's going to be able to round into form, and rounding into form is this Atlanta Braves lineup as well, with Austin Riley leading the way, 8 home runs, hitting north of 280, and then Marcell Ozuna, who's down a little bit with regards to his power numbers from season ago, but how about a 420 on base out of him? Michael Harris just is not giving you too much. He and Ozzy Albies, so you need to get a little bit more out of those 2 guys. But that said, Matt Olson back up to a 355 on base, 7 home runs. Not going to be quite peak 50 home run Matt Olson, but he's giving you a bit more there as well. I do think that they get to a guy, Mike Soroka, who I remember when he was with the Atlanta Braves, I thought that he was going to be really good, and it just has not happened with him. He has been dealing with a whole bunch of injuries, and for Mike Soroka, he's just a below average pitcher at this point, as he's right now posting up a 7.20 ERA thus far this season. Recognize it's in a small sample size, but you go back to last year when he had a 4.95 fielding independent, 4.74 ERA, was giving up about 5 walks per 9 innings. This far this season, he has been quite unlucky because he has been getting about 10 strikeouts per 9 innings, so that swing and miss stuff is actually up a little bit, but the command has been down, and when he gets hit pretty hard. That we have seen that with him coming off of injury. So I'm going to be willing to take the Braves on the run line, set them at a minus 125, and did make my total at 80.8 here at the 8.5. I'm going to be in on this total over as well. 957, 958 on the betting board. The Miami Marlins at the road, they're facing off against the Chicago Cubs. Ben Brown is on the bump for the Cubs, and Valentin Beloso hopes to not pitch like a bozo for Miami. Right now with the Cubs, you're going to be finding them anywhere between minus 230 to minus 250, plus 205 to plus 215. That number on Miami, and I'd be willing to go up to a minus 236 with regards to money line. If you're looking at the run line, I set mine at a minus 115 because I also set my total at an 8.2 right now. We have no totals up there because this is a Wrigley Field game, but 8 or less is going to be looking at the over, 8.5 or higher, the under, and because you don't have a total, you don't have run line prices, so a little bit TBD on that front, but that said, I just cannot take this Miami Marlins money line, even though Valentin Beloso, if you look at the raw ERA of him, it's actually not too bad. Now, for Valentin Beloso, I think that this guy is in for a world's worth of regression here, as for Mr. Beloso thus far this season, he's been able to give you about a 3.50 ERA, feeling pay him more around a 4.12. If you go back to last year, 3.67 ERA with a 5.73 fielding independent, has never really been a swing and miss guy for his career. He's giving up 1.7 home runs, 3.2 walks, and 6 strikeouts per 9 innings with an ERA of a 3.63 to show for it. That's a fielding independent of a 5.39. So, yeah, this guy is doing for quite a bit of regression. And for Ben Brown, he's actually become a relatively good swing and miss pitcher here for the Chicago Cubs, as he is getting north of 10 strikeouts per 9 innings, actually closer to 11 strikeouts per 9. The walks are a little bit of an issue. 4 walks per 9 innings, and that's a big reason why he does knock himself out of quite a few starts early, but he does a nice job keeping the ball in the yard for his career. 0.8 home runs allowed per 9 innings, so he's got this year a 4.95 ERA, 3.34 fielding independent. We should see some positivity here going up against a Miami Marlins lineup that honestly hasn't been the world's worst. You've got 2 guys that are really doing a nice job of being able to put that to ball. Kyle Stowers along with Matt Mervis, as both going to give you 7+ home runs this season. I will say for Mervis, he is hitting right around the Mendoza line of 200, so going to need to get a little bit more there. And then with regards to this Cubs lineup, it's been very, very good, as they are currently number 1 in all of baseball in terms of runs per game. You've had Kyle Tucker do a nice job supplying 10 home runs. Pete Crow Armstrong, he's up to 10 home runs. That's one of the more stunning numbers that we've seen in all baseball thus far this season. But on top of that, Seiya Suzuki, Dansby Swanson, combined 17 home runs. These 2 guys, the batting average for both have been a little bit suspect, but Ian Happ at the top, giving you a 360 on base. Michael Busch giving you a 360 on base. That's rock solid, especially when you consider that the Cubs less than average with regards to their bullpen ERA thus far this season. Porter Raju was so good for the team last season. He's been going through a few struggles. Brad Keller has honestly been okay in this bullpen, but Julian Merriweather, after a nice start to the season, he's been rough. Ethan Roberts, in his limited amount of appearances, has not been so savory. And for the Miami Marlins, this has been a lesser bullpen out there in the big leagues, as well as you've got a guy in Anthony Bender who's actually been able to do a really nice job for the team. And I do like Ronnie Enriquez. Enriquez has been able to give you sub-3 ERA. He's been nice as a long guy for this team, but I mean, really outside of that, you're not getting a whole heck of a lot of production out of some of these guys that you would expect to be getting that sort of production out of. And I do think that when you're having to mix and match with the likes of Jesus Sunoco and company, that makes it rough, especially when you've got only 2 real guys in that lineup that are supplying the deep balls. You've got a lot of guys that they move the line, like Xavier Edwards, who had a cycle against the Brewers last season. Eric Wagaman, he's able to hit for about a 240 with not a lot of power, just a 288 on base. Javier Sonja has been able to step up a little bit, where we're starting to see a bit of regression there. Augustin Ramirez, 4 home runs this far this season. He's giving you a bit of something, but I think that the Cubs should be able to take it to Beloso and company. Reason why I did set my total so low, though, is that you should be having the Wrigley Field win situation not necessarily be the world's greatest, as it's going to be blowing very much directionally in this game. It's going to be probably blowing in just a little bit towards first pitch as well. So I did set my total to where an 8 or less. I'm in on the over 8.5 or higher, the under. And for the Cubs, I'm willing to go up to a -115 on their run line. And for the Marlins, need at least a +237 to be able to take a shot on that money line. 959, 960 on the betting board. The San Francisco Giants play with the Arizona Diamondbacks, as Brandon Pfaadt is on the bum for the Saints, and Robbie Ray says hit parade to another start for San Francisco. Relative pick'em line here. Both of these teams are as good as a -105 and as bad as a -115. And total on this game is 7.5 with the over and the under both at -110. And I'm going to be searching for the over in this spot, as I did set my total at an 8.2. And with the Giants, I set them at a very slim favorite price of a -108. So at a -105, -106, I'd be willing to lay that small money line, as Brandon Pfaadt has a 3.28 ERA, but just a 4.21 fielding independent. He's been allowing a little bit too much hard contact, 1.4 home runs per 9 innings. Throughout his career, he's been a solid swing and miss guy, but not necessarily an amazing swing and miss guy, giving you about 8.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. Doesn't give up a lot of walks. To his credit, over the last 2 seasons, less than 2.2 walks per 9 innings. And Robbie Ray, you can't say the same about him. He has given up 4.7 walks per 9 innings this season, 2.84 ERA, but a 4.07 fielding independent. But I mean, both of these guys are screaming at you that regression is coming, and I do trust in the San Francisco Giants bullpen a little bit more than that of the Arizona Diamondbacks, especially with the Diamondbacks dealing with the injury to AJ Puck, who I do firmly believe is one of the better closers that you're going to find in all baseball. And then additionally, you've had Justin Martinez deal with a little bit of an injury as well, so that's been relatively rough for this Diamondbacks team. Now, you have been able to get a few guys who have done a nice job of firing all cylinders for this team. seam. Jalen Beeks has been able to give you a sub-3 ERA. You've been able to get some good innings as well out of Shelby Miller, but Juan Murillo do have a few question marks with him when you have to throw out there someone like Ryan Thompson, who I always believe was pretty solid until this season, but he's really been regressing this year. That's a bit of an issue. Now, Arizona, they're a top 2 offense in terms of runs per game since the beginning of the 2024 campaign. Corbin Carroll and Eugenio Suarez combined 23 home runs. Suarez not hitting for any sort of average whatsoever. Carroll enters into yesterday with a 345 on base, just really able to find it after last season was just abysmal for him. And then Josh Naylor's give you about a 370 on base. Geraldo Perdomo's moving the line. He's been able to give you nearly a 395 on base. And David Smith, what this guy's been able to do, give you north of a 400 on base. That's been very rock solid as well. And for the San Francisco Giants, the power numbers are not necessarily what you'd expect for this lineup, but that's because they play in San Francisco. When you're playing in San Francisco, just very hard to be able to slug the ball out of the yard. And for Willy Adames, it's been a little bit slow going for him. 4 home runs with a 220 batting average entering into yesterday, but that said, I think that he's going to be able to pick it up. Now, you need a bit more out of Patrick Bailey, Lamont Wade Jr., and Luis Matos, only below the Mendoza line of 200, but Mike Yastrzemski, 375 on base. Matt Chapman, even though the batting average isn't great, 360 on base with 8 home runs. Eloy Ramos, 7 bombs, 350 on base. So these guys are supplying. Jung Ho Lee has been rock solid, and this is a Giants bullpen that does rank in the top 6 with regards to their ERA as well. You've had Aiden Birdsong actually be a really nice long reliever, but if you're looking at more of the short guys, Eric Miller, Tyler Rogers, along Camilo Duvall, all these guys being able to give you sub 225 ERA, Randy Rodriguez being good in that bullpen as well. I do think that it's just enough for the Giants to get the job done in a start where both of these starters experienced some regression. So somebody told it at 8.2. I'd like the over with the Giants one way up to a minus 108 on that money line. 961, 962 on the card. The Minnesota Twins hit the road. They're facing off against the Baltimore Orioles. Cade Povich is on the bump for Baltimore. Simeon Woods Richardson is on the bump for Minnesota. Minnesota is an underdog of anywhere between plus 105 to a plus 118. Meanwhile, you're finding anywhere between minus 120 to minus 130 on Baltimore. 9 is the total. The over is minus 115 and the under is minus 105. And I do believe that the wrong team is favored. I set the Twins at a minus 118, so I'm going to be willing to roll with them on the money line. I'm just simply unwilling to trust in both Cade Povich along with this bullpen of the Baltimore Orioles. The Orioles have been one of the worst teams in terms of ERA in all the big leagues in terms of their bullpen. This despite the fact that Yunior Cano, Felix Bautista, one of the best 1-2 punches that you're going to find in all of baseball, but 5.05 bullpen ERA entering into the day on Monday. That's a little bit less than tremendous, and it's because all these long guys have not necessarily been so great. Keegan Aiken has honestly been okay for them, but I mean, you've had a lot of mixing and matching out there in the bullpen. Gregory Sotos or Anthony Dominguez, the former Philadelphia Phillies, have been very much less than savory. And then when it comes to Cade Povich, he has been quite a bit better at home rather than on the road throughout his career, but this season he's been bad at home, he's been bad on the road. 5.05 fielding independent, 5.55 ERA, only getting about 7.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, giving up north of 3 walks per 9 innings, all while allowing north of 1.5 home runs per 9 innings. So that's a disaster to say the least. And for the Orioles offense, it's solid. It's not necessarily great. You haven't necessarily had that one guy come out with his power. Ryan O'Hearn along with Cedric Mullins right now leading the way with 7 home runs apiece, and O'Hearn has been really good at moving line, 395 on base, but Mullins, after a really nice start to the season, he's starting to crater a little bit. Jackson Holliday is starting to get on base a little bit more, entering into yesterday with a 265 in terms of that batting average, but you've had a lot of guys just underwhelmed this season. Now you're getting Tyler O'Neill off the injury list, that helps, but he, Ramon Laureano, Adley Rutschman, Ori Mateo, so many guys that are hitting a 220 or lower, that and it's rough. Ryan Mountcastle is starting to hit for a little bit more average, but 2 home runs and hitting at 227, that's just not cutting it. They've just dealt with a bunch of injuries to the likes of Colton Cowser and company as well, so that's been very much hurting them. And for the Minnesota Twins, this is one of the few times that you're ever going to see both Royce Lewis and Byron Buxton out there on the field healthy at the same time. And for Lewis, he's been back for about 6 games. It's been rough for him, so we'll see if he's able to pick it up. But Buxton is up to 9 home runs and hitting at 265, so he's been able to give you a bit of something there, and they've needed it because Carlos Correa is having a miserable year, and he's right now a big giant waste of money. But Harrison Bader's hitting darn near 300 with a 380 on base. Ty France has been able to move the line for you. Trevor Larnach, after a rough start to the season, he's been much better last few weeks. They've needed him to be because Matt Wallner is currently on the injured list. And for Minnesota, it's a bullpen that I'm neither here nor there on. Griffin Jacks has been getting all sorts of jacks up. That has not been tremendous, to say the least, but Yohan Duran, a sub-1 ERA, he's been really good out of this bullpen. Justin Topa's been able to give you some good innings. I really like what I'm seeing out of Danny Kalum, the former Baltimore Orioles, and with Simeon Woods Richardson. He throughout his career has been been about a league average pitcher. He's right now giving you about 8.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, posting up a 4 ERA. Like, this has been him throughout his career. He'll give you about 3 walks per 9 innings. He's nothing great, he's nothing terrible, but that's much better than what you're getting out of Cade Povich. So, circumstance where I did set the Minnesota Twins as a money line favorite of -118. I'm going to be looking there, and then I did set my total at a 9.3. So, here at the 9, I'm also in on this total over as well. 963, 964 on the betting board. The Boston Red Sox hit the road they're facing off against the Detroit Tigers as Carrillo Montero is on the bump for the Tigres, and you've got old Brian Bay who's going to be on the bump for Boston. Most places had this off the board because we were unsure of whether or not we were going to be getting Carrillo Montero in this start or not, but that said, I do have my handicap on this one because most of these places, they just don't have any sort of an opener. I did set the Detroit Tigers at a -114 on the money line, and then I set my total to wear an 8.5 or less. I'm going to be in on the over 9 or higher to the under, so I need at least a +115 to take a shot on Boston, -113 or better. Going to be looking at the Tigers. As for Montero, I don't necessarily have a ton of faith in him just yet. He's starting to build a little bit of goodwill with me because he's had a few nice starts this far this season, though when you go up against Colorado Rockies, it's not really hard to have a good start there, as he's made 4 starts in total. 579 fielding independent, 6.2 strikeouts and 4.2 walks per 9 innings. That's a little bit less than tremendous, obviously building some momentum in his last start, but that's it for Brian Bale. He's been a little bit hit or miss throughout his career as well. Now, first few starts have been very good for him. 201 ERA, but 558 fielding independent. He's been getting 5.2 strikeouts and 4.8 walks per 9 innings, allowing a little bit over a home run per 9 innings. He's just been able to weasel his way out of a lot of situations. I just don't think that this is going to be continuing, and with the Boston Red Sox, this is obviously a very formidable lineup, as you've got Trevor Story, who's been able to give you a little bit of power. He's been regressing over the last few weeks, but man, that has been very good in terms of an offseason signing, has been Alex Bregman, hitting above a 300. He's been able to give you 8+ home runs, give you about a 385 on base, and then Weiler Abreu, he's been wilding out. He's been able to give you 10 home runs this far this season. He's hitting for about a 380 in terms of that on base. Jarren Duran not necessarily giving you the power this year, but last few weeks he's been able to find a way to be able to get on base. Christian Campbell is giving you about a 350 or so on base as well. Tristan Casas being on the injured list and being out for the year, in my opinion, really doesn't affect this team, especially with Rafael Devers picking it up with the bat because, well, he's not going to be picking up a glove apparently anytime soon. And for the Red Sox, I just don't necessarily have a ton of faith in this bullpen either because you have Aroldis Chapman as your closer, and he's been pretty solid this far this season, but man, you always have to have your trepidations there. Liam Hendricks has been pretty solid since coming off of obviously a whole bunch of stuff off the field over the last few years, so that's been very nice to see. And Justin Wilson has been able to give you a sub-3 ERA along with Greg Weiser, but I just have some trust issues in general with this bullpen. The likes of Justin Slayton and company just have not been amazing, and for the Tigers, this is a top 5 team with regards to their own bullpen ERA as well. So even if you don't necessarily get the best start out of Montero, you've got a lot of guys who are able to step up in this bullpen. Will Vest, Brendan Hennefy. You've even had something like a Sean Gunther, Brandon Herter, Tyler Holton. All these guys give you a sub-320 ERA. And for the Detroit Tigers, this is the top 3 team in the American League in terms of runs per game, with having Spencer Torkelson, Riley Green combining for 19 home runs going into yesterday. Both of these guys hitting in that neighborhood about a 245 to a 255. And then Gary Carpenter, 9 bombs. He's been able to do a nice job finding way on base. Javi Baez, who was just miserable for multiple years, he's all of a sudden being able to move the line as he and Gleyber Torres both hitting above a 280. Dylan Dingler at the catcher spot has been solid as well when he's been out there, so I like what I'm seeing out of this Detroit Tigers lineup. So 8.5 or less, like the over 9 or higher, the under with the Tigers. Willing to lay up to a -113 with them, +115 or higher looking at the Red Sox. 965, 966 on the betting board. It is the Rays, and they are going to be on the road facing off against the Toronto Blue Jays as Jose Barrios is on the bump for the Jays, and the Boz, Shane Boz, is on the bump for the Rays, and the total on this game, it is 8. Overs between -110 to a -115, unders between -105 to a -110, with Toronto between -118 to -125 is what you're laying there. +105 to +107 is that number on the Rays. When we get the timelines out, we should be able to get to a +110 or higher. That'll be my buy point on the Tampa Bay Rays. With this Rays unit, it's been one that has been hit or miss with regards to the offense, to say the least. Jonathan Aranda being able to give you 400 on base with 5+ home runs has been rock solid. Brandon Lau is starting to give you a little bit of power, but he's been hitting right around about a 200. He's been so inconsistent throughout his career, but he's been able to have Junior Caminero be able to give you 6+ home runs to start off this season, so he's been able to do a bit of something for this lineup as well. When you got the likes of Taylor Walls and company at the bottom of the lineup, that hurts them, and the likes of a Cameron Misner, who was able to start off the year very rock solid, he's starting to regress a little bit, and I do think that it was very impactful that Jake Magnum went on the injured list about a week or so ago. He was really hitting the ball well as well. for the Toronto Blue Jays, this is just flat out a team without any power this year. They're in the bottom 5 of the big leagues in terms of their overall home run power. The signing of Anthony Santander thus far has been a flop, as he's been hitting right around about a 200. He's only been able to supply the team with 4 or 5 home runs thus far this season. You've had George Springer really be able to find the fountain of youth. Recognize that his home run power is not amazing, but 4 on base, 5 home runs entering into yesterday. You'll take that. You've got Vladimir Guerrero Jr. continues to move the line, about a 380 on base. Problem is, he's only had 4 home runs through 40 games, and Bo Bichette, he's not really hitting for a lot of power. Another guy that's hitting about a 280. Miles Straw's hitting a 280. He obviously doesn't provide a lot of power, and with this Blue Jays bullpen, it's been relatively average thus far. You've had a few guys who did a nice job of being able to step up. Mason Hardy has actually been really good in this bullpen along with Brandon Little. Both of these guys a 2 ERA or better. But then you've got Jeff Hoffman, Yimi Garcia, Chad Green. These guys have been able to come through and they've been able to give you some solid innings. So Hoffman and Garcia saw a lot of regression over the last week or so. So do want to be mindful there when you do get into the long guys like a Yariel Rodriguez. That becomes a big giant roll of the dice. And then on the flip side for the Tampa Bay Rays, you know that this bullpen is going to be a lockdown. They're a top 8 team with regards to that bullpen ERA. So you've got so many guys in this pen that are able to give you a sub 330 ERA. Manuel Rodriguez, Garrett Clevenger, Pete Fairbanks, Hunter Biggie, Eric Orze. All these guys are very rock solid for them. But when it comes to the Boz and Shane Boz, I do think that he's going to be able to lend a relatively solid start. This is season number 2 coming off of major injury and major surgery, and he's been able to do a nice job. He'll be able to give you a lot more swing and miss this year. He's up to north of 9 strikeouts per 9 innings. Now, the 493 ERA does not speak to how well he's truly pitched. 398 fielding independent, giving up about 1.2 home runs per 9 innings. You'd like to see that be a little bit lower, but I do think that he's going to be able to give a good performance, and I always thought this with Mr. Jose Barrios. He's a man that you want to be backing at home, and he's a man that you want to be fading on the road, because Jose Barrios, he has those big giant splits, and thus far this season, all across home and road starts, 386 ERA, but a 483 fielding independent. He has given up north of 4 walks per 9 innings, allowing a home run and a half per 9 innings as well. But you go back to all the way to the start of the 2016 season with Jose Barrios. His home ERA is a 3.58. At home, he gives up well less than a 1.1 home runs per 9 innings mark. On the road, that goes up to nearly 1.5 home runs per 9 innings, 4.56 lifetime ERA. So it is a very interesting circumstance. I did set my total as a result at a 7.8. So here at the 8, I like the under. And for the Rays, plus 111 or higher, want to back that money line. 967, 968 on the betting board. The Kansas City Royals are on the road facing off against the Houston Astros, as Framber Valdez is on the bump for the Stros, and Chris with the K Bubich is on the bump for the Royals. 7.5 is the total. Over and under, both at minus 110. With Houston, they are between minus 134 to minus 142 favorites, and plus 118, plus 127. That number on Kansas City is at the Astros at a minus 144, so I'm going to be willing to back them on the money line. Chris with the K Bubich has actually been really good this season, by the way. For Bubich, he's supplying a sub 250 ERA. That swing and miss stuff has been great. He's been hovering in that neighborhood about 10 strikeouts per 9 innings. He's really doing a good job of being able to cut down on the walks as well, 2.6 walks per 9 innings. Now, he is a guy that I think is doing for a little bit of regression on his $1.69 ERA, 270 fielding dependent, but has been giving up a lot less than a home run per 9 innings. I believe he's had 3 runs or fewer allowed in every one of his starts this season, and for Framber Valdez has been a little bit more shaky. That start against the St. Louis Cardinals was very much less than tremendous, but for Framber Valdez, what I've noticed out of him this season, and this has not been indicative of his entire career, it's been much more impressive at home rather than on the road. At home, he's right now supplying a 3.50 ERA. That's more of a 4.20 when he's away from home, and at home, he's only giving up about 1 home run per 9 innings, so he's been able to do a solid job there for Valdez. About 8.5 strikeouts at 3.2 walks per 9 innings, 394 ERA, 382 fielding depends, so sort of getting what he's deserving of. But these are 2 really good bullpens as well, with both the Royals and the Houston Astros, top 8 teams with regards to bullpen ERA. You've got a Astros team that has Brian King, Brian Abreu, and then you're able to throw in there Josh Hader. I'll give you a sub 3 ERA, but you've also had Caleb Bort do a really good job of holding down the fort. And on the flip side for the Kansas City Royals, you've had a pair of guys in Carlos Aceves, Lucas Ursich, do a really nice job of being a 1-2 punch in the 8th and 9th inning. But on top of that, Daniel Lynch has really been able to step up in this bullpen. Steven Cruz was not allowing a single run going into the day on Monday. And for the Kansas City Royals, the thing that's unfortunate with them, no offense thus far this season. Bobby Witt Jr. now up to 5 home runs, and he's been able to do a nice job of reaching base. 385 on base, but you expect a little bit more power and a little bit more slugging out of him. Benny Pascantino is right now leading the way with 6 home runs, but 266 on base entering into yesterday. That's less than tremendous. Michael Massey with a 229 on base entering into yesterday. Kyle Isbell with the 270 on base. These guys really don't walk a lot, and they don't necessarily hit for high averages. That's a bad combination right there, though. Miguel Garcia, he's been a little bit north of a 300. And then on the flip side, you've got a Houston Astros team that has been very shaky in terms of their offense as well. You've got a whole bunch of guys that are sitting between 4 and 5 home runs. Isaac Paredes, Jeremy Pena, Jose Altuve, Christian Walker, Yennier Diaz. So that's been interesting to say the least. And Diaz just at 267 on base himself, but Pena has been at about a 285. You've had Jake Myers move line, giving you about a 360 on base. Currently, they're dealing with Yordan Alvarez on the injured list, and Cam Smith just hasn't necessarily been what the team was hoping for as a rookie. That said, I do think that for the Houston Astros, they're going to be able to do a solid job with their bullpen, and I do think that both of these offenses do show a little bit of more of a pulse in this one. So I did set my total at 7.7. I like the over end with the Houston Astros. Willing to lay up to a minus 144 on that money line. 969, 970 on the betting board. The New York Yankees are going to be on the road against the Seattle Mariners, as Brian Wu says woohoo to another start, and got Max Fried going for the Yankees. The Yankees are minus 135 to minus 140 favorites, plus 118 to plus 122. That number on Seattle with a total of 7. The over is between minus 115 to a minus 125. Under is between minus 105 to a plus 105, and for the Yankees, I did set them at a minus 146 on the money line. Not willing to go too much further than a minus 140, but I'm going to be willing to lay this money line. Max Fried has just been absolutely sensational. Now, is Max Fried doing for a little bit of regression? I do think so. He's not necessarily like blowing you away with his 8.2 strikeouts per 9 innings, but 105 ERA. He's inducing a lot of soft contact as he's allowed just 3 home runs in his 8 starts thus far this season across north of 50 innings. His hits per 9 rate is one of the lowest marks in all of baseball. He's given up fewer than 2 walks per 9 innings. There's not much more to say other than this guy has been absolutely incredible. And then for Brian Wu, he has been pretty solid as well. 3.25 ERA, fielding independent, more in the neighborhood about a 2.91 as his swing and miss stuff that was there his rookie season wasn't necessarily there in year number 2. Starting to come back to him. 9 strikeouts and 1.6 walks per 9 innings. He's giving up less than a home run per 9 as well, so he's been able to do a really good job of locking down. Now, he is coming off of a rough start on the road against the Athletics, but that said, Sacramento is a very unforgiving ballpark, and T-Mobile Park, it has the best ballpark factor in terms of helping pitchers out there in all of baseball. And yet, despite that, this has been a Seattle Mariners team that has been a top 10 team with regards to runs per game this season, with big dumper Cal Raleigh being able to supply 12 plus home runs this season. You've got a guy in Ori Polanco who was just so brutal last season, but this season hitting for north of 350 going into yesterday, 9 plus home runs. You'll love what he's able to bring to the table. And then J.P. Crawford moving the line with about a 390 on base as well. Julio Rodriguez, after a rough start to the season, he's starting to pick it up. Now, Rowdy Tellez aiming for just a 250 on base, 200 batting average. That's been not necessarily amazing for the team, and Randy Arozarena needs to pick up that 230 average, but that comes along with about a 380 in terms of his on-base percentage as well, and Ben Williamson has actually been able to give you some solid at-bats as well. Flip side for the New York Yankees, this is the highest scoring team out there in the American League right now, with Aaron Judge hitting for a 400 with 14 home runs entering into yesterday. Just absolutely remarkable, but Paul Goldschmidt is giving you 400 on base. Ben Rice, about a 370 on base, 9 home runs out of him. Trent Grisham, 10 home runs in his first 100 bats of the season with north of 360 on base. Yasan Dominguez, he's starting to be able to give you a little bit of power as well. Cody Bellinger has not really knocked down a whole heck of a lot, and yet this has still been a very good lineup. And for the New York Yankees, it is a bullpen that can sometimes be suspect outside of Luke Weaver. Weaver has been able to give you a sub-2 ERA. He's done a nice job locking it down. And for Devin Williams, this has been not great to say the least, but they're finding a way to mix and match right now. Yuridy Los Santos, as a long guy, has actually been pretty solid. Tim Mills giving you a 3 ERA or better. You've had a few guys that have been very testy for the team. Tyler Madsick, who they picked up, he's been a little bit shaky along with Ian Hamilton, but you do take a look at these Seattle Mariners, and they've got some, shall we say, shakiness in their bullpen as well, because you've got a good closer in Andres Munoz that I like, but how are they going to be able to get him the ball? You've had Gabe Spire do a relatively solid job in that bullpen, but it's going to probably take Matt Brash a little bit of time to be able to find his sea legs. Additionally, Taylor Cicado and guys like that just have not been good at the bottom of the bullpen as well, so that does lead to a few question marks. So I've been liking what I've been seeing out of Colin Sider. He's been posting up a sub-4 ERA at a little bit of a rough weekend, but Trent Thornton outlining on the injured list as well, though he wasn't really doing a lot for you either. That does make things a little bit more rough, and Edward Bizardo having a bit of a tough time at it as well. So I did set my total at 7.3. I have a few question marks with the bullpen, so I'm going to be willing to take a shot on the over. And for the Yankees, I'm willing to lay up to a minus 145 on that money line. 971, 972 on the betting board. The Milwaukee Brewers are on the road. They're facing off against the Cleveland Guardians as Logan Allen is on the bump for Cleveland and Quinn Priester is on the bump for the Brewers. And the Brewers do find themselves between plus 105 to plus 112 dogs. -120 to -125. Then around Cleveland, with 9 being the total. Over and under anywhere between -105 to a -115. And with the Brew Crew, I did set them at a +127. So I'd be willing to go up to the -125 that I'm seeing with the Cleveland Guardians for Logan Allen. It was a very disjointed season from last season, and we should see a little bit of regression from what we've gotten out of him thus far this season, but Allen has been a little bit of an improved man thus far this season, as right now he's got a 4.33 ERA after last year that was 5.73. Fielding pen, though, is about a 4.50. He's only getting about 6.5 strikeouts to north of 4 walks per 9, so do have to have a little bit of concern there. And for Quinn Pricer, he's been able to do a better job with his pitch mix ever since getting to the Brewers. He was just called up, in my opinion, too early with the Pittsburgh Pirates, but he still has a ways to go as a pitcher. 5.08 ERA, 5.09 fielding independent, 6 strikeouts to 6 walks per 9, and he's not necessarily giving up a ton of the deep ball, but still a young 24-year-old that needs to find his way. Now he gets to go up against the Cleveland Guardians lineup that is quite top-heavy. As for the Guardians, you've had Stephen Kwan be a really nice leadoff hitter, giving you north of a 375 on base. Jose Ramirez has been a little bit shaky throughout the season in terms of his power, but still giving you about a 285 average. You've had Carlos Santana not really pan out for this team, and then you've got a lot of guys towards the bottom of the fold, like Nolan Jones, Brian Rocchio, Bo Naylor. When you get him at the catcher spot, Austin Edges, all hitting a 215 or lower. And for Kyle Manzardo, he has been able to give you 8+ home runs this season, but he's only hitting about a 215 as well. And then for the Milwaukee Brewers side of things, you've got Sal Frelick, Bryce Strang doing a nice job finding way on base. Both of these guys give you north of a 350 on base, but Rhys Hoskins, even though the power's not been there, about a 380 or so in terms of his on base. Jake Bowers has been a nice find for them. Christian Yelich, Jackson Trio, 7 home runs apiece, and you're going to need to get a little bit more on base out of both of these guys. A combined about 290 or so on base between the two of them, and Yelich hitting just a 215. But I do think that the Brewers are in for a little bit of positivity with this bullpen. Last year they were actually number 1 in the National League in terms of bullpen ERA, and in the American League side of things, the Guardians were number 1. They still have Tim Aaron, Hunter Gaddis, Cade Smith will be able to give you a sub-3.5 ERA, but the Paul Sewald signing not panning out, and he's currently on the injured list. And then Emmanuel Clase has been shaky. Jacob Junis has been amazing, but for the Brewers, you've got pretty much all those guys from the bullpen a season ago. Yopai, Elvis Figueroa, Jared Koenig, Trevor McGill back from season ago, and Abner Uribe has actually probably been their best reliever. He and Nick Mears both give you a sub-2 ERA, but that said, it has been really not panning out for either of these bullpens, so it does lead to an interesting ordeal. I do think that both of these pitchers are going to have some success against lineups that leave a little bit of something to be desired, and in the end, I do think that Logan Allen is going to be a little bit more effective here than Pricer. So set my line at -127. I'm willing to take the Guardians on the money line, and I'm in on the under, set my total at an 8.7. 973, 974 on the betting board. The Chicago White Sox are on the road against the Cincinnati Reds, and yes, we're on to Cincinnati. Who's on to Andrew Abbott, getting the start for them, and the Cannon, Jonathan Cannon, goes for the White Sox. White Sox are between +158 to +172 dogs, -180 to -192. That number on Cincinnati, and 9 is the total. The over is -115, under is -105, and for the Reds, I'm going to be willing to take a shot on the run line. I was willing to go up to a -120 there. Most places have this currently off the board. At the one book that I'm really finding one on at FanDuel, it's currently a +102. Would be more than willing to take a shot there. Pretty much anything of a -120 or less, I'm going to be willing to take that run line. As for the Chicago White Sox, they've been a little bit better this year, but that's not really saying a whole heck of a lot. And plus, they've got the Colorado Rockies who really mess or stink at this point, so that's been tremendous for them. And for the Chicago White Sox, you just still have really no offense whatsoever. This continues to be a bottom 6 team in the big leagues in terms of run creation. Lennon Sosa has been hitting at 255, and he's been the main man in terms of being able to provide average. We've got the likes of Luis Rivera, Andrew Vaughn, Michael A. Taylor hitting a 200 or lower for the team. And for Robert, I mean, it's just been uncharacteristically bad for him since the beginning of the 2024 campaign. Andrew Benintendi has supplied for 5 home runs, but he's currently on the injured list. Edgar Quiero, after a really good hot start to the season, he's starting to cool down a little bit as well. And this is a bullpen that also ranks in the bottom half of the big leagues in terms of ERA, not necessarily a lot of trustworthy pieces, as Mike Clevenger had to be sent down to the minor leagues. Mike Vasil has actually been a really good long guy, giving you a sub-2 ERA, so credit where it is due there, but the likes of Jordan Leisure give you a 4.5 ERA. Tyler Gilbert, a 4.26 ERA, are few and far between, as you've had Caleb Murphy, Penn Murphy, Frazier Allard, Brady Eisert. These guys give you north of a 4.95 ERA, and then on the flip side, the Reds bullpen, I'm not going to call it amazing, but you know, you've got some relatively good guys that are going to give you a sub-3.5 ERA when it's all said and done. Scott Barlow's not amazing, but he's not terrible. You've had Luis May, Tony Santillan, Taylor Rogers, Brent Suter. These guys come in, hold down the fort. Lyon Richardson has been providing some good long relief as well. Graham Ashcraft over the course of the season has been solid, a little bit more shakier in the last week or so of the season, but I do think that for the Cincinnati Reds, they do a nice job hopping all aboard Jonathan Cannon, who's been only getting about 6.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, nearly 4 walks per 9. Has done an okay job of keeping the ball in the yard, but for the Cincinnati Reds, a lot of guys who are doing a nice job of just finding a way on base. Austin Hayes being on the injured list has hurt them, but Santiago Espinal has been able to give you about a 295 average, and Eovaldi Marte being in and out of the fold, that's hurt as well, but TJ Friedel, Gavin Lux, both north of a 355 on base. You've got Tyler Stevenson now off the injured list as well. Elliot De La Cruz not hitting for a ton of average, but has been able to give you 6 home runs, one of the most prolific base stealers in all of baseball. And I do think that you're going to be finding a little bit more of the likes of Matt McClain, Spencer Sear moving forward as well. I do think that they hop all aboard our good friend and Jonathan Cannon. And for Andrew Abbott, his swing and miss stuff has been quite good this season. Abbott has been having a little bit of an issue with the walks. He's been giving up north of 3 walks per 9 innings, but that said, he's been able to be a relatively solid pitcher this far this season. 2.25 ERA, should see regression with that. 3.66 fielding dependent, but still 11.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. He should be able to blow away the Chicago White Sox lineup. I did sell my total at an 8.7, so with the Reds, I'm going to be willing to take a shot on the run line, and here at a 9, I'm in on the under. 975, 976 on the betting board. The Colorado Rockies hit their other facing off against the Walker Texas Rangers. Jack Leiter is on the bump for the Rangers, and Kyle Freeland goes for Colorado. Colorado is a underdog of plus 185 to plus 195, minus 215 to minus 225. That number on the Rangers. 8.5 is the total. Over and under anywhere between minus 105 to minus 115. And here's a question everyone's wondering: what is the run line in this game? And right now, I am seeing this up at FanDuel with the Rangers being a plus 102, and I am more than willing to take that. I was willing to go up to a minus 123. Now, for Kyle Freeland, he actually should be doing for a lot of positivity. An ERA that is north of 5, but a fielding independent that's more than 2 full points lower, as he's not really been giving up a lot of walks. Now, for Freeland, he's never been a great swing and miss guy. For his career, he's right around about 6.7 strikeouts per 9 innings, 6.9 this season, but does not give up a lot of GPs. 3 home runs allowed over his first 8 starts of the season. That's with half of his starts being over at Coors Field, but on the flip side, you do have a guy in Jack Leiter who should be very much a beneficiary of this Colorado Rockies lineup. The Rockies averaging, going into yesterday, 2.2 runs per game away from home, and Jack Leiter has given up a combined 10 runs in his last 2 starts. So he needs positivity for Leiter. Still struggling at the big league level, not giving up as many deep balls as he did a season ago, giving up just 2 home runs in 23 innings through his first 5 starts, but 4.3 walks, 7 strikeouts per 9 innings, leaves a bit of something to be desired, and he's backed up by a Texas Rangers bullpen that's right around league average in terms of our bullpen ERA. You've been able to have a few guys be able to step up for this team, while Luke Jackson has been having a rough time at the closer spot. He's been posting up an ERA as well north of a 4, but for Texas, you've had the offseason acquisitions like a Sean Armstrong, Hobie Milner be able to give you a sub 3.3 ERA, so that's been trustworthy for them. Jacob Webb has not necessarily been the world's greatest for them, but that said, you've been able to have a few guys just mix and match in this bullpen whenever they've needed. Someone like a Mark Church should be able to step up. He's been able to do so. And for Texas, they are currently a bottom 5 team in terms of their overall offense and run creation as well. But I do think that that's going to pick up now that you've got Corey Seager off the injured list. Him being injured towards the beginning part of the season really warped this team's numbers. He's hitting a 300 with 6 home runs in his first 100 bats of the season. Now this big three needs to pick it up. Jock Peterson, Marcus Semien, along with Jake Berger, all entered into yesterday with a 262 on base or less, 3 home runs or less, falling below the Mendoza line of 200. That just can't happen. Adolis Garcia just really doesn't hit for a lot of average whatsoever, but Josh Young, he's been able to about a 265, and Josh Smith, the Joshes, they've been solid, as Smith has been able to above a 300 as well. But again, for the Colorado Rockies, they're hitting below the Mendoza line of 200 with regards to games away from home. You've actually had Hunter Goodman at 4 road home runs as far this season, so it's been good for the team, but man, you got a lot of guys that are just out hitting in general. Brenton Doyle hitting at 225 overall, that sinks to below the middle line of 200 when he is away from home. Same goes for Michael Toglia. You've had Nick Martini be able to give you a few okay at-bats, but Alan Trejo is a guy that just should not be at the big league level. Ryan McMahon has really struggled thus far this season, and the Colorado Rockies bullpen is pretty hopeless as well. You've had Jimmy Harrigan and Jake Bird actually give you a few okay innings, but Victor Vodnik is on the injury list. Zach Ognos is pretty much a closer for the team at this point. Sub 1 ERA, so the small sample size has been solid, but when you're relying upon guys like Anel Shavili for big innings, that's not where you want to be. So I did set my run line price at a minus 123. I'm on to lay with the Rangers, and I flat out don't think that the Rangers are going to be giving up a lot of runs to the Colorado Rockies. Semi-total at 80.1, so I'm also in on the under. 977, 978 on the betting board. The LA Angels, if they're facing off against the Slam Diego Padres. Dylan Cease is on the bump for the Paz. Jose Soriano is on the bump for the Angels. Angels are between plus 160 to plus 170 dogs, anywhere between minus 183 to a minus 198. That number on San Diego, 7.5 is the total, under is minus 115, and the over is minus 105. And with the San Diego Padres, you're going to be able to find the run line price at a little bit of plus money. Right now, I'm seeing a plus 112 out there. I'd be willing to lay up to a minus 116 here. I just, at this point, have no faith whatsoever in the LA Angels. They're another bullpen that has north of a 6 ERA. You've got just not a lot there other than what you're able to get out of Kenley Jansen, but even Kenley Jansen starting to poop the bed for the team as well. For Soriano, he does a good job keeping the ball in the yard for his career, 0.7 home runs per 9 innings at 0.6 this season, but 7.5 strikeouts to 4 walks per 9 innings, just not really giving you anything earth-shattering there. And for Dylan Cease, I believe that he has been one of the most unlucky pitchers in all baseball this season. Right now, he's hanging an ERA of a 4.91, but that fielding independence, a 3.36, 10.5 strikeouts to less than 4 walks per 9 innings, giving up less than a home run per 9 innings out there at Petco. He should be able to have a lot of success in this one. And for the San Diego Padres, getting back Jackson Merrill is very big, as he was on the injured list, and we saw what he was able to do as a rookie last season. And additionally, you've got Manny Machado, still stuck on 3 home runs, but he's hitting well above a 300 this season. Fernando Tatis Jr., he's been able to give you darn near 400 base with 9 home runs this season. Gavin Sheets is hitting above a 300, entering into yesterday, 5 bombs out of him. Xander Bogaerts, not a lot of power. You're going to need to get a little bit more there, but even the likes of Elias Diaz have been solid, and Jake Cronenworth comes off the injured list as well for a San Diego Padres team that they've been one of the best bullpens out there in all baseball. Got a little bit tagged in the Colorado Rockies series, but Audrey Motohone, Yuki Matsui, pair of guys who are able to give you a sub-3 ERA. Jeremiah Estrada has been able to supply a sub-2 ERA, and then Robert Suarez, Jason Adam at the back end. These guys have been rock solid. And for the LA Angels, again, who's going to be able to give you some good innings? Perhaps Ryan Zephyrian, but I mean, it's very few and far between out of all these guys. Brock and Roll Burke has been getting brocked, and he's been getting rolled. And for the LA Angels, this is an all-or-nothing lineup that now has Mike Trout on the injury list. So I will say Mike Trout, when he was actually out there this year, hitting below Mendoza, I'm 200, a little bit less than tremendous there. You've had Taylor Ward along with Logan O'Hoppe combined for 17 home runs. And O'Hoppe is hitting about a 265, but Taylor Ward's hitting below 200. Joe Adell, 5 bombs, but he's hitting below 200 this season. You haven't been able to get any sort of average out of Kyron Paris as well with his 6 home runs. So these guys have all been very suspect. Nolan Schunal, Zach Neto have given you a bit of something, but I think that Soriano gets sagged up here, and I do think that Dylan Cease delivers a good start. I'm willing to lay up to minus 115 on that Padres run line, and I did set my total at 7.7, so I'm going to be willing to take a shot on the 7.5 over, and we wrap things up with 979, 980 on the betting board. The LA Dodgers play OC Athletics. Says you've got Jeffrey Springs on the bump for the Sacramento A's, and Landon Knack has a knack for getting starts for the Dodgers. Right now, minus $2 to minus 205 is that number on the Dodgers. Plus 170 to plus 180 is the number on the A's, and total on this game is 9.5. The under is minus 125, and the over is plus 105. And right now, if you're looking to lay a run half with the Dodgers, you're able to find that at a plus 104 on FanDuel. I'd be willing to go up to a minus 113 for Jeffrey Springs. It's been all sorts of suspect out of him. Now, a few places are hanging up TBD with regards to the A's starter. I can't think that the A's would be able to come up with something much better than Springs, even though he has been very rough to begin the season, as his ERA is at 4.81. That field independent, more around about a 4.92, 7.5 strikeouts, 4.5 walks per 9 innings, but it's also an A's bullpen that's in the bottom 5 in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. So even if you do get Hogan Harris, that's not any sort of upgrade for the team. Mason Miller has actually been a little bit suspect for them over the last few days as well, so that's a little bit of an issue. Michael Oton's being on the injured list, that has been very much hurting this bullpen as well, though you've been able to get some good innings out of Justin Turner, Tyler Ferguson. Love to see that, and this A's offense is much above average with regards to their overall power. Tyler Soderstrom, he's been having a little bit of a rough go of it in terms of being able to find the deep ball over the last few weeks, but still stuck on 9 home runs, nearly a 350 on base. Miguel Andujar has been hitting in that neighborhood of about 300. Shea Langolaris really doesn't hit for any average, but he's been able to give you 8 home runs this season, so love what these guys are able to bring to the table. As Lawrence Butler, a little bit shaky in terms of his overall batting average, but he should be able to pick it up, and Brent Rooker is up to 10 bombs this season, so you'll love that. And then you've also been able to have Mr. No Walks whatsoever, Jacob Olsen, do a nice job for this lineup, but for the LA Dodgers, this is truly the Death Stars. You've got Shohei Ohtani along with Teoscar Hernandez, both being able to slug the boom. Both of these guys hitting above a 300 for Hernandez, 9 home runs entering into this series, and Shohei Ohtani, 12 bombs. Mookie Betts, 350 on base with 6 home runs is honestly low for his expectations, and you've had the injuries to Tommy Edman this season. You're going to need to get a bit more out of Michael Conforto, Max Muncy. These guys aren't really moving the line or giving you a ton of power, but Andy Paz has stepped up in the meantime, north of a 340 on base. He's been able to supply 6 home runs. Will Smith gets jiggy with it with north of 400 on base as well. For the Dodgers, they've dealt with a lot of injuries with Michael Kopech and company in that bullpen, but still, you're getting some relatively good production out of this bullpen in general, as you've been able to have a sub-2 ERA out of Tanner Scott. Kirby Yates has been able to live up to expectations as well. Blake Tryon being on the injured list has hurt them, but Alex Vesia, relatively good reliever, and for Landon Knack, this guy has been allowing throughout his career quite a bit of contact, so that does have to leave you a little bit weary there with Knack overall this season. A 4.61 ERA, fielding dependent in a small sample size of 4 appearances, a 3.85, about 8 strikeouts, 4.5 walks per 9 innings. Last year gave up 1.8 home runs per 9 innings, down to about 0.7 this season. I do think that the A's are going to be able to generate quite a few runs here, so I did set my total 9.6 at the 9.5. I like the over and the Dodgers on the run line, and that'll wrap things up for the Tuesday edition of the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Big thanks to Rob Donaldson of the Rob's Best Bet Show for joining me in the last segment. If you do like hearing from this fine podcast, Baseball Betting Show, you're able to subscribe wherever you hear podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you have one of 2 ways we offer those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, letters EM, they mean does not matter, so per usual, please do send these into the timeline. Other ways, find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review, and I'm coming at you guys every single day throughout the baseball season on this podcast, so I'll be back with you once again tomorrow. Thank you.
If you work in quality control at a candy factory, you know strict safety regulations come with the job. It's why you partner with Grainger. Grainger helps you find the high quality and compliant products your business needs to inspect, detect, and help correct issues. And the sweetest part is, everyone gets a product that's as safe to eat as it is delicious. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.